just stop. Here's Ross, the host with today's dose of common sense.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. How are you? Big news today. I wake up first thing in the morning, and my son texts me and asks me if Donald Trump is trying to start World War III. Since I had just gotten out of bed, I had no idea what he was talking about. I don't get up in the middle of the night and read the news. So, yeah, once I was up to speed. Hey, we attacked Venezuela and kidnapped their pseudo-president, or whatever you want to call him, their dictator, the guy who stole the last election and remained in power. It brings up a lot of questions. There's a lot of discussion going on right now. So my own thoughts on the issue, I guess I'm going to just lay it out here. I don't care. It's kind of like the narcotics boats strikes. I can't be two-faced about anything, so I try not to be, at least. So I don't care if a bunch of drug smugglers are getting blown up in the Caribbean. Let's be honest. I just don't. Does that mean I think we should be committing extrajudicial executions on people around the world and things like that? No, not really. There are some people who need killing, though, and I don't really care if some drug smuggler and their boats are getting blown up in the Caribbean. There are many, many more important things for me to worry about, and everyone else as well. But what I do care about is knowing that who we are attacking is a legitimate target. Like, these are actual drug smugglers, part of a cartel. These are real people we can identify, and we know they are involved in bringing these drugs of death into our society. So if we know those things and we blow them up in the Caribbean, I don't know, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it or shed a tear. So the same thing kind of goes with Venezuela. The president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, he was indicted before for running a drug cartel. Now, it may be a completely made-up drug cartel that our government created out of thin air and said that he's the boss of it. I don't know. I'm not privy to those inside conversations, and those whatever evidence they're presenting. To that end, I don't know what it is, but we kind of knew this was going to happen. Trump's been playing it up for, I don't know, almost an entire year now, and an attack on Venezuela of some sort with the express purpose of driving Maduro out of power was kind of on the horizon. I don't think anybody's really surprised by this happening. They may be surprised at how it was done, which we're going to get into now. And it looks currently, it appears that this was a flawless military operation. And that's not something that we're able to say very often. But to me, my initial thoughts on this would be that means that Pete Hegseth and the White House were not involved in the planning of this operation. They probably did the smart thing, and they deferred to the experts and said, if this is what we wanted to do, you tell us how it needs to be done. Those of you who are old enough, or you've studied the topic or read about it, might know about the Desert Storm, the first Gulf War, they call it now, but it's really just the Gulf War, and how that operation played out. And the reason why it played out that way, why it was really one of the most decisive military victories in U.S. history. Number one is because we possess the strongest military force on the planet. And we did back then, and we still do. We have capabilities that most countries simply can't compete with. But on top of that, the government, George H.W. Bush, who was himself a combat veteran and Navy pilot, deferred to the experts. He went to the DOD, Joint Chiefs or whatever, and said, hey, if we wanted to drive Iraq out of Kuwait and deteriorate their military capabilities so that they can't do this again, how would we do that? And probably Schwarzkopf and a bunch of other generals and experts Air Force guys and everybody said, well, this is how we should do it. And he let them do it that way. Excuse me. So that's how you win wars, by letting the people who fight the wars, who know how to fight the wars, make the decisions. So fast forward to 2001 and 2003, when we invade Afghanistan, we invade Iraq. Politicians started making the decisions about how this was going to be done and putting restrictions and rules, and we're going to do this, but we're not going to do that, and we're going to build nations, and we're going to blah, blah, blah. And that's how it all got screwed up. If the objective was just, we're going to invade Iraq and make sure that they can never hurt anyone again for at least the next 30 years, that's easy. We already did it before. So, for the most part. But we rolled over the fifth largest army on earth in a matter of hours as a nation. We, not me in particular, but we as a nation. So if we wanted to just take them out and reduce their military capability and do those things, we could have done that easily. It would have been just like the first Gulf War, and it would have been over with. When we, as a nation, the CIA and the military special forces, special operations personnel went into Afghanistan initially after 9/11. The thing I read, now you're going to have to check my math, but there were less than 200 Americans on the ground when the Taliban fled Kabul and, abandoned the capital and fled. And then we just kept pouring people in there. So when we set our minds to doing something, we can do it. And it's, I wouldn't say easy for us, but we have all of the capabilities necessary to do that. So sneaking in or taking out the air defenses of a country like Venezuela and just violating their airspace and them not being able to do anything about it, it's easy. It's not something that anybody should be worried about from our end of it. But none of that seemed to happen. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But the question now has been, people are debating, was this Delta or was this SEAL Team 6 or, CAG or DevGru? I don't know if they call them CAG anymore, Combat Applications Group. I don't know if they still call them that, so that we'll call it the unit. That's what the guys in the unit call it, is the unit. At least they used to. So I don't know for sure who it was. SEAL Team 6, we know that DevGru was already on the ground in Venezuela, or at least in the ocean nearby Venezuela, because they were helping identify these boats that we were missile striking and blowing up in the Caribbean. They said that DevGru was involved there. I'm assuming they may have had some guys on shore who were tracking the smugglers and identifying the boats, and then as they go out into the ocean, they're like, hey, blow this one up. So, doing those sorts of covert operations and stuff, that's going to be something that the SEAL Team 6 and Delta both are capable of doing, just like other intelligence gathering organizations in the Special Operations Command. I don't know if they still call it the activity or the intelligence activity or anything like that, but I'm sure they have all sorts of units now that I'm unaware of and that we're all unaware of. Those are just the ones that we know of because of, the information being out there. But those sorts of capabilities were involved, but mostly people are saying that this was a Delta operation. Snatching Maduro was a Delta operation, which would make sense. Both Delta and SEAL Team 6 have the capability of doing hostage rescues, snatch and grab operations, and, direct action, all that kind of stuff. But I've known some guys from the unit, and I've talked to them. I've interviewed people for articles that I've written, and things like that. And I hung out with some of these guys, and I've talked to them kind of in depth about their experiences. And you can find interviews on YouTube and stuff with other special operations people who went to Delta and their experiences from their, hey, I was a Billy Badass over here in 5th Special Forces Group. And when I passed selection to go into Delta, all of a sudden I felt like I was a PFC again and had to relearn everything because they do it differently. And their objective, at least this is the way it was explained to me, their objective when they hit a target is to hit it so fast that you don't have time to react to it. The perfect operation is when no one fires a shot, because you're on the target so fast and you overwhelm it so quickly that they don't have time to respond. They don't have time to react to what you're doing, so it's already over before they realize what's happening. And my understanding, from my opinion, from what I know of those two competing but not quite similar. They're similar but not quite the same. They have different ways of doing things. If you want a group of people to run through a bunch of buildings and rescue people and or snatch someone, Delta's the place you go. CAG, the unit, those are the guys who you're going to use to do that, because they move so quickly. The way they're trained, they're able to move through the environment efficiently, quickly, take down targets if necessary, snatch someone and be out before anyone even knows what's going on. So we know that there were aircraft involved, helicopters in particular. That's not an easy way to tell, because you had your Chinooks and you had some Black Hawks, and they had some attack helicopters that I wanna see better video of them, because it's all really, I don't know what the deal is, but there are people from Venezuela who are posting like cell phone footage and stuff of the things going on, and it's so low quality. I don't understand it. It's very low quality. You can barely tell there's a helicopter in the sky. And it's very annoying to me, because there's a specific helicopter that I'm wondering if it was involved. That's all I'm saying. And so I want better video. And so those aircraft are flown by the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment. And they're the guys who fly both of those. They're the air wing for, those SMUs, those Tier 1 units. So just by seeing the aircraft, you can't tell, well, is that Delta or is that SEALs or whatever, things like that, because they're all being flown around by the same organization. So there's no real way of knowing until the government comes out, or the DOD comes out and says, yes, this was a Delta Force operation, or yes, this was a SEAL Team 6 operation. We're never really going to know, because even if you catch pictures of them on the ground, they all wear the same kit. I mean, it's not like they have a big sign on their chest that says U.S. Navy SEALs or anything like that. But they do tend to, the Delta guys used to, at least, I don't know if they still do it because everybody started picking up on it, but they used to wear a big American flag right in the center of their chest on their gear. That was something that they did differently than the SEALs, but I don't know how any of that's done anymore. I haven't been involved in seeing any current, up-to-date, kit of what they use. I just know it's way more advanced than everybody else gets to have. So it's kind of hard at a distance, even seeing them, to decide, are those SEALs or are those Delta? So until somebody actually comes out and tells us definitively what went on, we're probably not going to know. I would guess that it's going to wind up, they're going to call it a joint operation no matter what, because I'm sure SEALs were involved. I'm sure DevGru was involved in gathering intelligence on the ground and being involved in targeting and all that other stuff. I'm sure they were, because they were already there. And that's an admission by the government. So they were already involved, but whether or not they used them or Delta to go into the actual building and snatch out Maduro, that's the question. So I guess we won't find out until there's a big press conference and somebody asks and the question gets answered. So, but here's the big question. Was it really a snatch? Did they really go in there and snatch him? Or was it prearranged? did Maduro surrender? And we went in and took him voluntarily. And the strikes that happened were simply there to protect our guys on the ground and Maduro while we were evacuating him. Now, the reason why I bring this up is there wasn't a whole lot of there wasn't any combat going on that I can see from the videos that have been released so far. Nobody was shooting back. None of the air defenses were activated. No one was shooting man pads at these helicopters. No one was firing their rifles. There was no actual combat going on. We were using our attack helicopters and probably airstrikes from bombers and aircraft to take out some specific targets. But none of the videos that I saw involved any return fire or anybody on the ground doing anything. So it kind of gives me the sense that Maduro may have told everybody, just stand down, get out of these buildings, let them blow these things up, and I'm leaving. He may not have told that to everybody, but I don't know. It seemed a little too clean, even for a Delta operation or a SEAL operation or whatever. It seemed a little too clean. Like nobody was fighting back. It could be that the maybe his presidential guard or the military generals, we already prearranged this with them and they made everybody stand down while we went in and snatched them. We don't know. There's going to be a lot of variables that we aren't going to know for a while. But something that did happen that made me wonder about the whole thing was an envoy from China visited with Maduro just like 2 or 3 hours before this kicked off. And Russia and China and Iran have all been friendly with Venezuela. They've all provided weapons and military support to Venezuela. So China is one of those countries that could have influence over Venezuela. And to me, it's just a little bit odd that right before we go pick him up, China was there having a little chit-chat with him. So he may have given up voluntarily and probably maybe to save face. We made it look like we had to invade and steal him or whatever, but it's very likely that he may have said, I know I'm never going to win this thing. And China said, hey, we'll take care of this or that if you just, give up. It'll be fine. Nobody needs to die or whatever. And we'll find out if there were any casualties on the ground or anything like that later. But it just kind of looks like that to me. I could be completely wrong. It could have just been a coincidence, or we may have used that as cover because we're like, well, they'll never expect us to attack while the Chinese delegation is on the ground visiting. So we won't know those things for a while. But it makes me seem a little bit suspicious of the whole thing because you have deconfliction of zones. And if you've never heard that term before, it means we make sure the people who don't need to die know that what we're gonna do and to get out of the area, get out of the way. So if we do something like this, we're going to deconflict the combat zone. We're going to call Russia and China and say, hey, don't send any of your people downtown tonight because there's going to be some fireworks. Or we'll tell them, hey, this base that's sitting over there, this joint operation base that you have, Russia and Venezuela, send all of your Russian troops, give them a weekend pass and tell them to go down to the beach or something and make sure that they're out of the way because we don't want to kill them. We just want to go in and grab Maduro. And we'll say the same thing to our allies, to our enemies, and that will happen like probably immediately before we launch the operation. So China, when the Chinese envoy went to visit with Maduro, he probably already knew that we were going to go in and grab him. So whether he was doing that, whether he was surrendering voluntarily, or we were going in and we're literally going to kidnap him from the presidential palace or wherever he was, China already knew, and I'll almost guarantee that. Russia, of course, came out. They're very angry about whatever, but I guarantee you Russia knew about it beforehand as well. But Putin's got to put on a good show. So let's go to some screen share here and look at some of the headlines currently. For those of you who are just listening, I'm just going to read some of these headlines. From Al Jazeera, Trump bombs Venezuela. U.S. captures Maduro. Here's all that we know. And U.S. officials confirm attack is underway. That was 4 hours ago. Maduro capture draws echoes of Noriega in 1990, which this is kind of not really the same thing. Like Panama, of course, that was back in, the old days. And Panama was a little bit different because we had troops stationed in Panama. Panama was our ally. And we had joint installations there. And a good friend of mine served during the war in Panama, and he was stationed there, and they were pulled out. They were told, okay, we're abandoning our post right now, and they were just basically pulled out and taken to like outside of town or to the beach. I forget whatever he was telling me, and then they went back in and invaded. So it was basically they just abandoned their barracks and then attacked and knocked the Venezuelans out of the military installations and stuff. So I guess I'm sure it was a very interesting experience for those American infantry troops who were already in Panama when it happened. The way he explained it, it was, we were training with these guys one day and the next day we were killing them. And so I'm sure that left a lasting mark on some people. But anyway, so I don't know about this comparison between this Noriega thing and the Maduro thing. To me, it's going to be very dissimilar, but, whatever. We don't have troops in Venezuela. We weren't really allies with Venezuela. We didn't have a whole lot going on with them other than Trump wants their oil. So I'm going to mute myself and clear my throat again. I'm sorry about that because there's something going around here. And it doesn't like to go away. So a lot of people are having congestion and, blah, blah. But Russia is harshly criticizing the United States on Venezuela and the capture of Maduro. And yeah, probably. I mean, Putin's probably, this is wrong. This is the evil American empire and all that other stuff. He's going to say that whether he believes it or not, because that's his role in life, is to be an adversary to the United States and to the West in general. So anything we do, even if it's something that he knew about beforehand and said, sure, I don't care, whatever, or even if we said, hey, guess what, we'll give you some of this oil. If you just, leave us alone, we're going to deal with Maduro and we'll let Venezuela continue to do whatever they're doing with you and whatever kind of deal they make. Even if they do that, Putin's still going to come out and badmouth us. China is still going to come out and badmouth us. So is everybody else. So take it with a grain of salt, I guess, whenever you read these things, because this is their public face and this is their persona. This is their role in global affairs. So they're not going to take that mask off right now and say, we knew about it. We don't care. Screw Maduro. They're not going to say that. Even if that's how they feel, they're not going to come out and say it publicly. At least not Russia and China are going to. Now, people are in World War III kicking off? No, not really. Because China and Russia are really the only global powers that have any chance of trying to deal with us militarily, and they don't actually have a chance of dealing with us militarily. China would have to launch their tiny little navy too, and yeah, everybody's going to say, China's got the biggest navy in the world. Whatever. Russia is currently in a quagmire in Ukraine, and they do not have the resources or the manpower to launch another military campaign somewhere. They simply do not. China is currently trying to flex their muscles in the Pacific, specifically in the Philippines and Taiwan and all of that stuff that's going on. They're not going to sail their navy halfway around the world and, come and try to defend Venezuela. It's simply not going to happen. So will this touch off a broader conflict? No. Because the only people who would probably have a stake in that would be people in that region, and none of them have any recourse against us. Go ahead, I don't know, try to attack us. What are you going to do? Send 6 of your guys with their, 1967 M16s and have them try to attack us? We'll just do the same thing to you. We'll just bomb the shit out of you and steal your president. That's kind of, this is going to send enough of a message that none of them are going to go, ooh, maybe we should do that too. We should be with Maduro. I don't think it's going to happen. So really, in my mind, the only question I really have still is who did it. I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure it was a combined force kind of thing. It was a joint operation between, because that's how, like, Eagle Claw back in the 79 or whatever it was, when they were going to try to rescue the hostages in Iran, and they were like, hey, Delta Force, do you know how to do this? And they're like, hell yeah, let's go. We just need 200 guys and I need some transport. And by the end, it turned into a giant joint operation with the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, Marines, all involved and conflicting, frequencies and aircraft not being able to communicate. And it was a giant fiasco, and like 17 people died during an accident. And that's what happens when you don't let the experts plan their own mission. So because the DOD got involved and the Joint Chiefs decided that they wanted everyone to take part in this heroic mission that was going to save the hostages. So I know it was going to be like a joint operation. But the question of who went into the building and captured Maduro and evacuated him or extracted him, however you want to put it, out of Venezuela, that's one of the questions. I want to know that. Was it Delta? Was it DevGru? Or was it a unit that we don't quite know about yet? Because there are, I don't know, what would you call them? Rumors? Rumint? Whatever you want to, however you prefer to describe it, that there is a couple of other units that are not public that we don't actually know about that do some things. And so it's a possibility that it could be a unit. They might say it was Delta who did it. They might say it was DevGru, and it might have actually been one of these other units because they're just not going to tell you. And maybe they'll flip a coin and decide who's going to get the credit for it. I don't know. But anyway, my money's on Delta for the actual building raid. That's where, I'm voting for that. I'm Team Delta. So that's one question. And the other question is, did we actually have to snatch him, or did he say, all right, that's fine, I give up, I surrender, make it look good, make it look like I put up a fight or something to save my reputation, but, stop by at 1:30 in the morning and I'll have my bags packed and we can go. So those are the two questions that I have. And hopefully that we'll get some answers to that. Probably not too soon. The which unit did it question will be answered first. Somebody will come out and do a press conference and say, yes, this was a Delta Force operation, or yes, this was a SEAL Team 6 operation, or this was, the U.S. Marines went in and did it. But we know it was a special operations unit because of the transport and stuff. But interesting times. It's not going to touch off a wider conflict. It's not going to do any of that stuff. This isn't World War III. We don't have to worry about it. What we have to worry about is the legality of it. And these are things that are going to be debated probably for decades. And 20 years from now, someone in law school during their con law class is going to be talking about this and other things that have happened. Because there are debates that have been ongoing for decades, really, about the powers of the executive. And can they do these military operations without congressional approval? Can they do it without giving notice? If they're going to do it and they don't need approval, do they have to give notice to the leadership of the country? And, blah, blah, blah. There's all these legal questions involved. Some people, legal experts, come directly down on the no, this is an illegal operation. You have to have congressional approval prior to doing anything like this. This is illegal, period, end. And there's a lot of other legal scholars who will say, no, the powers of the president are clear, and they'll use examples from history, and they'll say the president can do these limited military operations, as long as they're not declaring war or planning a long-term occupation, if it's just a strike on something. And I suspect that there's a whole lot of attorneys and legal scholars in the middle that are like, don't know, still with it on a case-by-case basis, I guess. Because I don't know what it is. The Supreme Court would have to come down and say, yeah, no, you can't do that. That's illegal. It's too late. We already did it. But who knows, 10 years from now, they might make a decision and say, yeah, that's illegal. You can't do that anymore. This may be one of those incidents that creates the opportunity for that to be litigated in court, and the Supreme Court can make a decision and say, no, these powers do not lie solely with the president. You're going to have to get congressional approval, or at least, congressional leadership is going to have to be informed, or whatever system they come up with. But for now, I think it's irrelevant because it's already done. So it'll be a discussion for later, and it'll be a decision for later. But the one thing is for sure, the Trump presidencies, plural, are going to lead to a lot of legal decisions that may alter the landscape when it comes to the powers of the executive versus the powers of Congress, the powers of the Supreme Court. I think in the future there's going to be some more clearly defined powers and delineation between powers, between the branches of government, and a little more stricter control over who can do what without anybody else's knowledge. And I'm not for neutering the power of the presidency, but I'm also not for giving the president free rein to do anything he pleases, like start selling shit like he does now. President Trump is literally enriching himself and his family off of the presidency. And I don't care who you are or what side of the fence you're on. It's obvious that he's doing that, and he's just blatantly rubbing it in everybody's face. And what he's doing should be illegal if it's not. He is making decisions that personally affect him and his businesses, and he's making billions of dollars from being president, and he is doing it without regard for any kind of legal advice that anybody might be giving him. I've heard lawyers on all sides of the aisle, they either don't address it, they'll refuse to talk about it, or they say it's illegal. Somebody will say it's illegal. Like, you don't have any middle ground on that. It's either this is illegal, or, yeah, no, we're not going to talk about that. That's not what the president's doing. And it's kind of weird. But when it comes to, do I care if we have Maduro and Venezuela is going to be in turmoil for a while until they figure out what to do? Not really. Not really. Is there going to be a whole lot of speculation that we did this just because we want to get our hands on Venezuela's oil, which my understanding is it's one of the largest, if not the largest, oil reserve on Earth that's known currently? Yeah, there's going to be a lot of that. There probably already is. There are people, I'm sure, talking about it on X right now. There's yet another war for oil. And it very well could be. Who knows? I don't know. But it looks suspiciously like it is, whether it is or not. And it's one of those things, too, where we're going to attack Iraq, and Iraq has a lot of oil. Look at all these oil fields. It must be about the oil. Whether it was or not, it looked like it was. So, and that's why Saddam was like, yeah, we're going to set the oil fields on fire during the Gulf War and all that stuff. But, yeah, it doesn't matter if it is or not. It's going to look that way. And all the conspiracy theorists are going to say that. They're going to say, this is either for oil or for the Jews. That's what they're going to say. I'm not kidding. That's going to be what they're going to say. They're going to say, we invaded Venezuela to take their oil, or we invaded Venezuela because Israel told us to. That's what you're going to get. Sorry. It's the predictability of conspiracy theorists around the world. It's going to be one of those two things, or both. Israel told us to do it so we could take their oil and give it to Israel. Or we would make more money, help our debt, and then we could give more financial aid to Israel. You're going to hear it all. The only thing you're probably not going to hear is that Bigfoot was behind it, because they might even say that the non-human intelligence and some alien beings were there, and that's why we went there, because Maduro was hiding them in the basement of his presidential palace or something. You're going to hear it all. Most of it's going to be about oil and the Jews. So anyway, I had to get on here and do this because that was my morning. That was my Saturday morning. I got to wake up this morning to this, and it's fun. It's a fun thing to talk about. Now, if we lost any troops during this, and I'm going to tell you, I doubt that we will, because number one, I think it was pre-planned. I think it was a thing that was arranged ahead of time. And number two, it would have been, if it was a Delta operation, they were in and out of that building before anybody even knew what was happening. And I doubt that we had any casualties. We hope and we pray that we didn't have any casualties during this operation. But again, there's going to be a whole lot of debate about this probably for a long, long time. Decades, probably after my death, people will still be talking about this. And hopefully when I die of old age at 120. But I suspect that it's going to be the topic of a lot of legal discussions for the foreseeable future. So anyway, keep your eyes open. Watch the news. I don't know. Nowadays, you got a 24-hour news cycle. You have to stay awake 24 hours because every hour some crazy shit's happening. But here you go. That's what's happening right now. And it looks like it was a successful operation. Do I care? No. Am I going to cry about it? No. Am I upset that Maduro got kidnapped and brought to the United States? No. You don't. Really. Just like I really don't care that drug smugglers are getting blown up in the ocean, as long as it's true. As long as they really are drug smugglers, I'm fine with it. We can talk about the legalities of it 20 years from now when somebody decides, but for now, I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it. I've always been anti-narco, anti-drug smuggling kind of guy, so I can't turn around now and just because Trump's the president say, I'm against this, because I'm not. I don't care. I don't know why we didn't invade Mexico, because that's where most of our drugs come from, so Mexico and Colombia. So maybe Colombia we should do next. Stick them out. I don't know. We could napalm and Agent Orange the coca fields in Colombia. I know they don't use Agent Orange anymore. It was just an example. And I don't know why we're not using Apache helicopters to take out cartels in Mexico. Why not? We declared war on drugs again. Last time we let drugs win. So drug war 2, I don't know. Are we going to lose this one as well? If this is how we're going to play it? I don't know. We're just going to go after easy targets? It's kind of like cheating. So we should be sending the Marines and the Air Force and taking out Mexican cartels. That's my opinion. If we're going to fight the cartels, let's fight them. Don't do this bullshit where you're going to overthrow easily toppled dictators who might be smuggling some weed somewhere. I mean, that's a cheap way out. It's bullshit. So if you're going to fight, go ahead and fight. If you're not going to fight for real, just don't do it, because it's a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of lives. If you're not in it to win it, stay home. That's my opinion. But anyhow, that's where we are today. That's what's happening in the world, and I'm going to do another podcast or two this weekend. I know I keep saying that, but, it was the holidays. There's a lot going on with family stuff. There was the holidays going on, illnesses and things like that. So it's been inconsistent, I know, and I keep telling you it's going to get better. I'm going to try to do some more podcasting this weekend and cover some other topics that I really want to talk about in the paranormal field. I'm talking about UAP stuff again, because there's been a lot going on, not like new revelations or anything, but there's been a lot of, conflict going on between parties that are involved in what people air quote the UFO community, what used to be called ufology. But I think ufology kind of has a bad connotation now. I think that's where they've clumped all the kooks. And you have to understand that there's more than two factions, but there are two major factions in the UFO community. One is the true believers who think everything is a UFO and an alien spacecraft or a demon. And then you have the other people, the skeptics, who just want evidence. That's all they want. And if they can look at your UFO video and go, that's not actually a demon, that's a 747. And it's obvious, they put that information out there, and then the other side goes, you just try to debunk everything. Well, everything you've shown us so far, it can be debunked. So, duh. And the whole Bledsoe stuff with the lady and all these other people who are like, this could be demons, and it's getting a little too kooky for a lot of people. Wacky. So, you're having a lot of conflict out there, and I want to talk about some of that too. And I'm trying to arrange having a guest on so we can talk about UFOs, and hopefully that'll happen sometime in the near future. I'm not going to make any promises, but hopefully we can get that done. And I will talk to you about it then. And we'll see what I do as far as recording this weekend, and I'll let you know. But again, let me. I don't do this thing where I'm like, this podcast was recorded 2 weeks ago, and when you're reading this or listening to this or watching this, this has already happened. Now, just to clarify, I don't even edit these things. If I say something stupid or something wrong, I don't even edit it out. I might make a comment later and go, hey, you know what, I screwed this up. I kept saying this word when I meant this word. I don't even edit these things. The most I do is run it through Audacity to check the audio levels when I'm uploading the audio only version. Like the YouTube videos always seem to be fine, but on the audio versions, depending on what platform it's on, sometimes it's too quiet. And so I have to run it through a program and maybe boost the audio a little and then upload it. That's really all I do as far as editing goes. And there is no post-production on this. So I'm not cutting pieces out. I'm not putting things in. So, this will be posted probably within an hour of the time that I record it. And you'll be able to listen to it. So when I say tomorrow I'm going to record something, that doesn't mean tomorrow I'm going to record it and then 2 weeks from now you'll be listening to it. Because I almost always have these uploaded within an hour of when I recorded them. So, even if it's like the second time I had to record it because I screwed something up. Because that's usually what I do. If I screw something up really bad, instead of just going, okay, I'll edit that out later, I just stop recording and start over. And then I usually say, hey, this is the second time I recorded this because I screwed it up last time, which has happened, like forgetting to hit the record button. And then 25 minutes into it, you're like, oh, shit. So you have no choice but to start over. So now I've built in this redundancy now where it's being recorded twice. It's being recorded on my audio equipment, and it's being recorded in OBS for the video and everything. So worst case scenario, as long as I remember to push both buttons, worst case scenario is I'll have audio only for that episode because the video is messed up or whatever. I can always just make it an audio only episode. So I just thought I would throw that out there because I listen to a lot of podcasts and they're like, by the time you're listening to this, it's already been the new year. And because it's taken them 2 weeks before they post it. What are you doing? What the hell takes 2 weeks to edit on a podcast? It's just people talking. I don't know what they're doing. If your sound levels are bad and you have bad sound going in, okay, I get it. You're going to have a lot of post-production. Somebody's going to have to filter some of that stuff out or do whatever. But if these guys are in studios. They're in professionally built studios and with professional audio gear. And it's taking you 2 weeks to put an episode out? What's wrong with you? And who are you paying to do this? Because I would like to have a job like that where I can spend 2 weeks saying, I'm still tweaking this episode. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm a simple guy. Simple guy. I make sure that my audio is the best I can make it on the way in, and that's it. I don't do anything else with it. I keep hitting my microphone, though, see? So that's how unprofessional I am. But that's how I do it. I just make sure that the audio is good going into the recording. And then that's it. I'm done. Send it. What editing do I need to do? If I have to edit out things that I say, then I didn't really think about what I was going to say beforehand. I don't read from cue cards. I don't read a script. I know these guys, they write scripts and all this other stuff. They do weird things. I don't get it. I prefer to talk about things that I already understand. So if I go into a topic that I'm not familiar with, yeah, I'm going to research it first, but I'm probably going to tell people, hey, this is not my area of expertise. So this is just my opinion. And that's really the way it is on everything. I have no idea why I'm doing this rant right now, to be honest with you, other than it's just on my mind and I got to get it out of here. I got to get it out. But, yeah, I don't know. That's how I do things. It could be wrong. It could be why I'm not rich and famous. Is because, look, my backdrop is just my spare room. There's a piano back there. Not a real piano, a keyboard. It's an awesome keyboard. But yeah, this is just a spare bedroom that I put some sound stuff on the walls to dampen some of the sound. And I got really quality equipment. And this is the newest microphone, the SM7B, the famous SM7B. And it is a good microphone. I'm not going to lie. I resisted for a long time about, do you really invest in a microphone like this? And everybody's using it. I don't want to be just like everybody else, but it's a really good microphone. I already had three other really good microphones that are high quality microphones, and there was absolutely no need for me to get this one. But yeah, I was a victim. I think I was victimized. I just said, now I've got to have it. Damn it. That's what I did. But yeah, I'm always confused when people are like, oh, this is going to be 2 weeks before this episode comes out. What the hell are you doing? I don't get it. Record it. Pump it out there. Now, if you're going in and you're doing like 2 days in the studio and you're recording several episodes, over a 2-day period or whatever, then yeah, you're going to put them out at different times. You're not going to dump them all at one time. But so I don't know. Maybe they're doing that. But if you have to do 2 weeks worth of post-production on your podcast, then you're not doing it right. Sorry, but that's just the way it seems to me. They're turning it into another just like InfoWars shit where it's overproduced, and you just want to hear people talk. That's all you need to do. You just have an interesting conversation. That's my plan. I don't know. Anyway, it's a new year. It's not going to be a new me. It's going to be the same old me. So there is no new year, new me bullshit happening over here. It's still going to be me. So hopefully you remain yourself, unless you really needed to change because you're a shitbag. Then hopefully you'll change. But I don't know if you're a shitbag or not. I'm hoping that you're not. I will talk to you all later. And if there's any other breaking news, like we invade some other country, then yeah, I'll jump back on here in an hour. And we'll talk about that too. But for now, it's the Venezuela thing. Stay up on the news, keep your powder dry, and, keep your head on a swivel, as they say, because I don't know, weird things can happen anywhere in the world, including here. So take care of yourselves, and I will see you soon. Goodbye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Really? Just Stop with your host, Ross. Make sure to like and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform so that you never miss a dose of some common sense.